When the Atlanta Falcons went out and signed Kirk Cousins in free agency last year, the majority of people thought that it was a really good idea. Then, not too long after, they went and used their first round pick in drafting Michael Penix, and everybody started to question the decision making and the future of Atlanta. And in less than a year into the signing of Kirk Cousins, we are already talking about Kirk Cousins moving on from the Atlanta Falcons, whether that is via a release or whether that is via trade. Welcome on, everybody, into the NFC South Roundtable. My name is Colby Cochran, host here for the NFC South Roundtable and Roundtable Sports. On your way in, make sure to leave a big like on the video. Subscribe here to the NFC South Roundtable to join the family and get notified every single time we post and every single time we go live. This is your one-stop shop for everything involving the NFC South. Today's video brought to you by BetUS. We'll talk to you a little bit later how you can get an exclusive deal from them. Now, the beginning of Kirk Cousins' tenure with Atlanta really didn't start off all that bad. As the season progressed, Kirk just seemed to have gotten worse and worse. Let's keep in mind he was coming off of a season-ending injury in 2023. So, is it just that Kirk needed the entire year to get better? He simply wasn't okay. He didn't have that mobility factor to him. He couldn't bounce around the pocket. He couldn't step up into the pocket because of that lower body injury, and that affected his season? Possibly, but at the end of the day, the league is in a situation where nobody's patient. The front office isn't patient. Ownership isn't patient. The fans aren't patient, and either you're producing or you're not. The NFL is also recency bias. What have you done for me lately? So if you're getting worse as time goes on and not better, you're going to be on the outside looking in. Now, PFF gave Kirk Cousins an overall grade this past season of 74.3. He was ranked the 29th best quarterback out of 75 qualifying quarterbacks. When it comes to passing yards, he had 3,508. That was 18th amongst 75 qualifying quarterbacks. And then at passing touchdowns, he had 18. That was 20th amongst 75 qualifying quarterbacks. The big problem for Cousins, though, was the turnovers, and that's ultimately what got him benched. In close games, he couldn't beat clutch Kirk Chains. He really just threw the entire game away. He had a total of 16 interceptions. Let's keep in mind, he also didn't play the entire season. He had 13 big-time throws. That was 27th ranked in the NFL. And he had 24 turnover-worthy plays. That was ranked for 73rd in the NFL. One of the big problems, too, is that Atlanta's offensive line was a little bit shaky. Kirk only had about 2.54 seconds to throw, and that was his average time to throw, which ranked 62nd in the NFL, possibly a factor on what made him so jittery. I think many fans look at how Kirk Chains performed with the Minnesota Vikings for several years. Constantly made them a postseason team, was one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL year after year, and then in year one fails with the Falcons. Look at Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold failed his entire career, then goes to the Minnesota Vikings and succeeds year one and takes them to the postseason. That has risen the question on, is Kirk Cousins one of the best quarterbacks in the league? Or do the Minnesota Vikings just know how to get the best out of players, and more specifically quarterbacks? Now, what makes things the most complicated with this entire Kirk Cousins situation comes with that contract. But let's keep in mind, Kirk Cousins signed a 4-year, $180 million contract with the Falcons back in March of 11th, 2024. He received $100 million in guarantees. His 2024 and 2025 salaries are fully guaranteed, and he received $50 million in signing bonuses. There are $10 million roster bonuses due the 5th day of 2026 and in 2027. If you come up here, you can actually see Kirk Cousins' base salary and his numbers over the next couple of years. So this past season, he had a cap hit of $25 million. In 2025, that raises up to $40 million. In 2026, has a cap number of $57.5 million. And in 2027, has a cap hit also of $57.5 million, expected to be a free agent in the 2028 offseason. Now, ideally, if you're the Atlanta Falcons, you try to find some type of trade partner. And if they are able to find a trade partner, they're not going to get much from him. Kirk, I still think, is a very well-respected quarterback in this league, But given his cap number, given, again, recency bias, how he played this past season, the fact that he was benched for a rookie quarterback, that's not going to look good. Teams are not going to give up much draft compensation. So if you're a Falcons fan, don't expect much if they are able to find some type of trade package. But I think the negotiation process would include, if you're the Atlanta Falcons, taking on the majority of that contract, that cap hit that he has, so that whatever team he goes to, they don't have to take on a whole lot of money. Because if they cannot trade him and they decide to just straight up cut him, that's where things get a lot more complicated. If they cut him before June 1st, they'll take on $65 million in dead money while taking on $25 million against the cap. That does not add to your cap space. That is against your cap. So let's say that the Atlanta Falcons went into the offseason with $75 million. If they cut Kirk Cousins before June 1st, they would be down to $50 million in cap space. Now, let's say they decided to cut him post June 1st because they couldn't find a trade partner. That number is a little bit better. They would only take on about $40 million in dead money. I say only like that's not a crap ton. And they wouldn't have any cap savings, but they also wouldn't have any negative cap savings either. Like I said before, if they cut him before June 1st, they would have lost $25 million against the cap. But if they do it after June 1st, they don't get anything towards their cap space, but they also will not lose anything. Again, ideally, what you're looking for here is a trade, a pre-June 1st trade. And, well, I guess if you're a Falcons fan, it's probably post-June 1st, but what's more realistically going to happen is a pre-June 1st trade. If they're able to pull this off, they would have $37.5 million in dead money, and they would free up about $2.5 million in cap savings. I know that that is not a lot. That doesn't sound like the best case scenario. But at that point, you are just looking to get Kirk Cousins off your books. You're not looking to free up a bunch of cap space by moving on from him. You're not looking to get, high-end draft capital for him. Again, you're just looking to get him off your books and make it somebody else's problem. Now, if somehow they were able to pull this off, wait until after the draft, after free agency, and they made him a post-June 1st trade, this would be the most ideal situation for the Atlanta Falcons organization and Falcons fans. They would take on only $12.5 million in dead money, and they would free up $27.5 million in cap space. Now, again, at that point, it's June. You're starting the offseason process. You have practices starting. You have training camp starting a month later. This is not the most ideal situation or the most realistic situation. Why? Because it's June 1st. Like I said, free agency is done. The draft is done. Teams aren't really in need for a quarterback at this point because they've already gone through the process of improving their roster. The only leverage that the Falcons would have here is waiting till after June 1st to make this trade in hopes that a team would come about a need for the quarterback position, whether their quarterback wasn't living up to expectations or maybe their quarterback gets injured, he's out for the season, he's out for a period of time, and a team calls up the Falcons and says, hey, we're panicking, we'll trade for Kirk Cousins. So if you are a Falcons fan, what you want, best case scenario, is a post-June 1st trade. Realistically, though, what I think you're looking at is a pre-June 1st trade if anything is ultimately going to happen here. I know that there are some rumors that the Falcons will keep Kirk Cousins as a mentor quarterback for Michael Penix. I think that's a smokescreen. I think the only way that happens is if there is absolutely no trade partner. You cannot tell me, you cannot convince me that the Atlanta Falcons front office wants to keep Kirk Cousins at over $50 million per year, one of the higher paid quarterbacks, to sit on the bench and be a mentor veteran quarterback. Now, there are a lot of quarterbacks that you'll only have to pay $7, $8 million max to serve that exact same role. Before we continue on with today's video, though, want to give a massive shout out to the sponsor of this video over at BetUS. Guys, the Super Bowl, the conference championship, it is finally here, and there's no better time to get in on the action with BetUS than right now. When you guys sign up and use the code you see on the screen when you do sign up, YouTube150, you lock yourselves into a limited time exclusive offer of a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit, followed by $125 on your next two, all the way up to $2,000. And the deal doesn't stop there, because BetUS is also giving you 10% back on your net losses 2 times a year. And they have live wagering on all major games and the option to give you your very own personalized account manager. Now, some of you might be saying, if my team ain't in the conference championship or the Super Bowl, then I don't feel like betting. Hey, you know what? I totally get that. I totally get it. So look, the best thing about BetUS, they have the best betting variety in the business, and you can use this deal for any of these. Not only do they have NFL futures, NFL games you can bet on, but they also have college football, basketball, baseball, hockey, horse racing, fighting, politics, entertainment, you name it, and BetUS is going to have it. But guys, play smart, play responsible, never bet more than you can afford to lose, but a massive shout out to BetUS. Now, when it comes to some quarterback-needy teams that could potentially look to be interested in Kirk Cousins, the number one team that stands out to me would be a team like the Cleveland Browns. Now, Kevin Stefanski, for some reason, I don't know what it is, they just don't want a young quarterback. They don't want to develop a young quarterback. They want to succeed. They want to contend immediately, and they believe in doing so by going out and getting veteran quarterbacks. Deshaun Watson hasn't worked out for them. They should really just cut ties. It's already being reported that he's dealing with injuries that could potentially plague him for this upcoming season. Depending on what the asking price is for Kirk Cousins, it wouldn't surprise me if Kevin Stefanski calls up the Atlanta Falcons, brings on Kirk Cousins, and if Kevin Stefanski feels that he can get the best out of Kirk, that he can get him back to the version we saw with the Minnesota Vikings, and having that veteran mentor quarterback can immediately get the Cleveland Browns back on track. Now, the next one is the Tennessee Titans. This is a team that last offseason went all in to immediately start contending. They brought in Calvin Ridley. They brought in D-Hop the year before. They brought in L'Jarius Sneed on the defensive side of the football. They're a team that is not trying to rebuild correctly, and they're also not being patient, kind of like, Kevin Stefanski, the Cleveland Browns. They want to contend immediately. And obviously, the whole Will Levis experiment, it's done. They have the first overall pick. There's rumors that they're not interested in selecting a quarterback first overall. And if that's the case, maybe they go Abdul Carter. Maybe they go with a Travis Hunter and try to make him an offensive piece that they can then build with Kirk Cousins and really start to get some offensive firepower going there. Now, the last team I think that could realistically trade for Kirk Cousins, or at least have a level of interest, would be the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that at this point in his coaching career, Mike Tomlin doesn't want to select a young quarterback and have to develop him unless they're at a point where they have a generational pick with a generational quarterback just sitting there in their laps. Let's keep in mind, last offseason, they went the veteran route with 2 different quarterbacks. They picked up Justin Fields. They picked up Russell Wilson. There's already rumors going around that Russell Wilson might not return to the Pittsburgh Steelers because he could potentially reunite with Pete Carroll and the Raiders. If that is the case, then, Mike Tomlin, he's going to go the veteran route yet again and try to find the best option to succeed right away. If he could somehow turn Russell Wilson and Justin Fields into starting level players that were able to get the Steelers to the postseason, what could he do with Kirk Cousins? Pittsburgh is also a heavily run-based offense, so maybe that's the selling point, is that, Kirk, you're already making a lot of money with Atlanta. We'll slip you another $10 million. You're going to come here. We are going to run the ball to open up the pass. We're not going to ask you to do much. All we're going to ask you to do is lead this offense and make the plays when they're there, when we ask you to make them. Guys, this is where I kick it to you. What are your thoughts on the whole Kirk Cousins situations? Do you think that the Atlanta Falcons trade him? Do you think they release him? Or do you think that they keep him? If you think that they do move on, which team could you realistically see swooping in on the Kirk Cousins sweepstakes? Let us know in the comment section below. Remember, leave a big like on this video and subscribe to the channel for all of your NFC South news. Until next time, though, we appreciate you for watching. Big shout out to BetUS for sponsoring today's video, and stay safe.